The real name of Carol Burnett is Carol Creighton, in San Antonio, Texas, on April 26, 1933. Burnett had a hard childhood because she grew up poor and her family moved around a lot. Both of her parents were alcoholics, and they finally split up. Burnett grew up in a simple Hollywood apartment with her maternal grandmother. Even with these early problems, she found a love for performing, and often used fun to deal with her problems. This natural ability would grow into a groundbreaking career that would change the way comedy and variety shows are made. Burnett got her big break when she moved to New York City and started acting in nightclubs and other small venues. She had studied theater at UCLA. She had her first big hit when she sang the funny song "I Made a Fool of Myself" over John Foster Dulles on The Jack Paar Show. This led to regular appearances on The Gary Moore Show in the late 1950s and early 1960s. Her mix of physical comedy, honest feeling, and the ability to make things up on the spot made her stand out from her peers right away. Her work on Moore's show earned her an Emmy Award, a sign of how great she would become. When The Carol Burnett Show started in 1967, it was the big moment in her career. The variety sketch show, which ran for 11 seasons until 1978 and was led by a woman, broke new ground as one of the first shows of its kind. With Harvey Korman, Tim Conway, Vicki Lawrence, and Lyle Waggoner as supporting actors, the show was known for its funny skits, memorable characters, musical acts, and the occasional mistake that made viewers feel like they were a part of the fun. Burnett was a comedic genius because she could play a wide range of memorable roles, from the clumsy but likable Mrs. Wiggins to the clumsy but funny Scarlett O'Hara in the famous Gone with the Wind skit. "I'm So Glad We Had This Time Together," her last song, which she sang while pulling on her ear as a quiet message to her grandmother, became a lasting sign of love and connection. Carol Burnett has a big impact on a lot of people, not just on her TV show. She made it possible for many women to work in comedy, and for sketch and talk shows to be led by women in the future. She showed that women could be funny and take charge of the stage with her success. As leaders and founders, what comedy could be changed when Burnett found a way to mix broad comedy with deep emotion, often going from laughter to tears in the same sketch. She wasn't afraid to use her art to talk about social and political problems either. She used satire and stories to reflect the times. Burnett has had an amazing career in theater and movies. In addition to her famous work on TV, she played the lead role in Broadway shows like Once Upon a Mattress and in movies like Annie, 1982, and The Four Seasons, 1981. She continued to captivate crowds of all ages with her voice and presence. Burnett also wrote a number of best-selling autobiographies, such as One More Time and This Time Together, in which she openly and humorously talked about the good and bad things in her life. Carol Burnett has won many awards over the course of her career, including several Emmys, a Golden Globe, a Tony Mention, and, in 2005, the prestigious Presidential Medal of Freedom. In 2019, she received the first Golden Globe's Carol Burnett Award, which was made to honor great contributions to television. It was a fitting honor for a woman who changed the medium. In addition to her many career awards, Burnett is admired for being honest, kind, and strong. She is still a well-liked public figure, and she often talks about her humble roots and how thankful she is for the chances she was given. Her rare gift of being able to connect with people on a human level, whether through laughter or moving stories, has won her millions of fans. Her personal life has been shaped by a number of important connections that have helped her grow as a person and as an artist. He was her college love, and they got married on December 15, 1955. They fell in love when they were young and started dating when they were still growing up. Their marriage had all the innocence and hopefulness that comes with new relationships. But Even though they had a strong bond when they first met, their marriage couldn't stand the test of time and changing goals. In 1962, after being together for almost 7 years, Burnett and Soroyan split up. Carol went from being a college student to a professional entertainer during this early part of her life, even though it ended with a breakup. It was an important time that set the stage for her later wins. Not long after her divorce, on May 4, 1963, Burnett started a new life by getting married to TV director Joe Hamilton. Hamilton was a man whose family had a long history in the show business. He was married twice and had 8 kids. His brother was the actress Kip Hamilton. This link showed how Burnett's personal and work life would become intertwined, which would become a trademark of his career. Joe Hamilton was not only her husband, but also a very important team member, having put on her 1962 Carnegie Hall concert, which was a big moment in her career. As their relationship grew, Hamilton produced The Carol Burnett Show, which is one of the most popular comedy shows in TV history. Because of this, their marriage was strongly connected to their work, showing how love and work affected each other. Carol Burnett and Joe Hamilton had 3 children together. All 3 of them became famous in the arts and entertainment. Carrie Hamilton, their first daughter, was born on December 5, 1963. She took after her mother's creative energy and became a writer and actress. Sad to say, Carrie's life was cut short when she died on January 20, 2002, at the age of 38 from pneumonia that was caused by her lung and brain cancer. Burnett and her family were greatly affected by Carrie's illness and early death, which showed the personal struggles behind the fame. Their second daughter, Jody Hamilton, who was born on January 18, 1967, also went into show business, but she did it in a different way by becoming a film director. As of 2023, Jody is the executive producer of The Stephanie Miller Show and sometimes acts. She continues the family practice of being involved in the arts, but she adds her own unique touches. It was on August 14, 1968, that their youngest daughter, Erin Hamilton, was born. She decided to become a singer. The wide range of skills the Hamilton girls have shows how Carol Burnett and Joe Hamilton encouraged creativity while they were married. In her personal life, Burnett also had hard times, like when she had a miscarriage when she was only 9 weeks pregnant in early 1965. For this person, the loss was a private grief that showed how weak even a famous person can be. It made me think of the mental and physical struggles that come with being a mother. Even when they have a busy and successful job, even though they were both successful in their careers and had a family, Burnett and Hamilton's marriage ended in divorce in 1984. One of the main reasons they broke up was the stress of dealing with their daughter Carrie's drug issues. But Carol and Joe didn't run away from this terrible problem. Instead, they used it to help other people. In public, they talked about how hard it is for parents when their kids are struggling with addiction, becoming advocates for support and understanding. As a way to turn a personal struggle into a mission to help others, they also raised money for the clinic where Carrie was treated. This proactive attitude showed how strong and caring Burnett was. Carol Burnett and Carrie went to Moscow in 1988 to help open the first Alcoholics Anonymous chapter in the Soviet Union. This was a touching example of their ongoing dedication to helping people who are struggling with addiction. This was a big deal and a first step in the right direction. It showed how dedicated Burnett was to campaigning outside of entertainment. Joe Hamilton died of cancer in 1991, which was a sad end to a long and important partnership that had a big effect on Burnett's personal and work life. During the 1980s, Burnett had both personal problems and successes. She also worked to improve public health. She took part in a publicity effort for Medic Alert, a group that helps people with serious illnesses get medical ID bracelets. Burnett's participation was especially important because she got the 1 millionth band as the organization's symbolic 1 millionth member. This award showed her dedication to health knowledge and personal responsibility, giving her public image another side. After a long time, on November 24, 2001, Carol Burnett got married again. This time, she married drummer Brian Miller, who is 23 years younger than her. Even though Burnett got married later in life, it showed how much she believed in love and friendship, no matter what age or situation. Brian Miller brought new energy and a partner into her life, which stood for rebirth and continued happiness for her. Carol Burnett is known for being friendly, funny, and having long-lasting friendships with Hollywood stars like Lucille Ball, Julie Andrews, and Betty White. However, there was one name that never showed up on her guest lists: Dick Van Dyke. Just being around him would make her mood worse in an instant. The public loved Van Dyke as a comedian, and he was known for his long good looks, physical comedy, and friendly style on screen. But behind the scenes, there was a chilly front forming between him and Burnett. It grew into a quiet, hostile split that lasted decades. Both of them were at the top of their game when they first fought in the late 1960s. Van Dyke was making his name with the Dick Van Dyke Show and getting into the variety scene himself, while Burnett was having a huge hit with her own variety show. When they were both guests on a short CBS special, that's when they first shared a rehearsal room. From the start, their artistic urges were at odds with each other. According to reports, Burnett, who is very careful about timing and character detail, thought Van Dyke's improvised, off-the-cuff style was sloppy and indulgent. She found it annoying that he wouldn't stick to the script, taking sudden turns during carefully planned sketches that took attention away from how well the group worked together. Van Dyke, on the other hand, thought Burnett was bossy and not funny when she was behind the camera. He didn't like how she would control every part of a sketch, from the setting to how the punchline was delivered. He thought of her as a stage mother because she was too protective of the tone of her show and wouldn't let random chaos bring life to the comedy. Some uncomfortable moments during taping included raised voices and storm-offs. Later, Burnett told her closest friends and family that Van Dyke was the hardest man she'd ever had to act funny with. People say that the line turned into an inside joke among the Carol Burnett Show team, but it was never said to anyone else. The split got worse over time. In the early 1970s, CBS executives mentioned Van Dyke as a possible regular guest on Burnett's show, but she flatly turned them down, saying she couldn't take another minute of his crazy energy. The producers tried to make things better by suggesting that they work on different ideas or stay away from each other. But Burnett did not give up. She was polite in public and praised Van Dyke's contributions to comedy when asked, but when they were alone, she made it clear that she didn't like him. It seemed to her that Van Dyke was a funny anarchist who didn't care about accuracy, timing, or skill. Van Dyke, on the other hand, later took jabs at her in interviews. In 1980, he was asked about variety shows by a TV guide and said that some of them were so rigid that they were almost military in how they were run, like working with a clock. Insiders knew what he was talking about, even though he never said her name. When asked about the quote, Burnett just smiled and said, "That sounds like someone who never learned to count." Even after many years, the frost between them never got warm. When Burnett won the Kennedy Center Honors in 2003, Van Dyke was noticeably missing from the party, even though he was involved and often included in celebrations for friends. Some people thought he turned down the offer. Some people said that Burnett had checked the party list to make sure he wasn't on it. In either case, the message was clear. The gap stayed the same. In the rough world of show business, Burnett, who was known for being graceful and kind, rarely held grudges. It was different with Dick Van Dyke. For professional and personal reasons, including creative differences, ego clashes, and a basic difference in how to make people laugh, she just couldn't forgive or forget. Even though both stars left indelible marks on TV history, theirs was one of the quietest and longest-lasting Cold Wars during the golden age of variety TV. Through her amazing life and decades-long career in show business, Carol Burnett has not only won over millions of hearts with her unmatched comedic skills, but she has also formed some of the deepest and longest-lasting friendships in the business. Among her closest friends were famous people like Lucille Ball, the famous redhead who broke new ground in comedy, and was also Burnett's extremely loyal friend. Their mutual respect grew into a friendship that would last a lifetime. Ball is known for calling Burnett her heir apparent at one point. Beverly Sills, a famous opera soprano, was another close friend that Burnett loved. She admired her grace and ability a lot. People loved Jim Nabors as Gomer Pyle, but he was more than just a friend. He was family. Nabors became the uncle of Burnett's daughter, Jody, which shows how close they were and how much they trusted and loved each other. Julie Andrews, with whom Burnett often worked on music projects, and Betty White, who was always charming, had a warm and funny friendship with Burnett. White's sparkling personality and comedic brilliance made her a perfect match for Burnett in both humor and heart. Burnett left behind a tradition of mentoring that is just as important as her close friendships. Vicki Lawrence is one of the most important people in this area of my life, who Burnett found when she was young and quickly took in as her own child. As Burnett's protégé on The Carol Burnett Show, Lawrence became a star in her own right, in large part because Burnett believed in her and cared about her. Their close relationship went beyond the stage and screen and turned into a lasting friendship based on mutual respect. Lawrence gave a moving speech in honor of Burnett when he accepted the prestigious Mark Twain Prize for American Humor in 2013. The event was shown all over the country on PBS. Her words were filled with emotion and thanks, painting a clear picture of a woman who not only changed comedy but also had a huge effect on the lives of those who were lucky enough to know her. Burnett has shown a lot of strength and kindness in her personal life, especially when it comes to her family, away from the spotlight and the praise. In August 2020, Carol Burnett and her husband Brian Miller stepped up out of love and need to ask the court to take care of Dylan, her teenage grandson. This choice was not made without much thought, but one that is driven by a grandmother's strong desire to protect her son. Burnett was already given the formal title of educational rights holder, which meant she could oversee Dylan's education and make important decisions about it. She took this role very seriously and with care. When the court agreed to their request, Burnett and Miller took care of Dylan temporarily from September 2020 to November 2021. They gave him security, love, and direction during a very dangerous time in his life. In the end, Dylan's caseworker took over the job of guardian, but Burnett's part in giving them a safe place to start during that important time is a moving reminder of how much she cares about her family and how strong her character is. Carol Burnett has shown dedication, kindness, and heart in both her public and private life. This is what has made her not only a beloved showbiz icon in the United States, but also a deeply inspiring person.